Hello and welcome to this community conversation with the leaders of higher education here in Hampton Roads. We thank you so much for joining us. I am News 3 anchor Jessica Larche, and we are hosting this conversation in partnership with our community partners at the Hampton Roads Community Action Program, HRCAP, as we know and love. The nonprofit, as we all know, has a decades-long legacy of improving quality of life and breaking the poverty cycle through training, work experience, emergency services, housing counseling, and most importantly here today, education. And speaking of education, I want to introduce you to our esteemed guests here today. We've got them all in one room, so this is great. We have Dr. Scott D. Miller, president of Virginia Wesleyan University. We also have Jeff Thorett, director of Hampton Roads campuses for Bryan and Stratton College. We have Dr. Joel English, president of Centura College, and Gordon Robertson, chancellor of Regent University. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. I said this must be a brotherhood among you to be able to talk about issues that you are experiencing directly with your universities. And with that said, I want to get to one of the questions that a lot of people are asking as young people are trying to figure out what their futures are and what their careers are. And Jeff, I'll start with you. Is education still the key to individual success?
Yeah, Jessica, I would emphatically say yes. There are so many variables to the question, but at the most basic, there are so many things that a person learns during their college years, not the least of which is academic. But I know for me, even coming up through undergrad, I gained a world of experience through my interactions, through classrooms, all of the groups and philanthropic ventures that I was in during undergrad as well. So I think it's certainly invaluable still.
We talk about what you learn outside of the classroom. I'm a graduate of Florida A&M University, the #1 HBCU in all of the land. I'm sorry, I just have to say that. But I can call my professors on the phone right now about questions in my career and about life experience, and it feels good to be able to do that. Do you also experience that with the students at your school, and is that a benefit to seeking a higher degree?
Well, sure. First of all, I think that to that first essential question, is higher education the pathway or the way that a person can be enriched? And I think the answer is there are a lot of short-term needs that every person has: food, shelter, transportation. But the education is the one that fills that long-term need of vocational and financial security, the ability to move forward in life and bring one's family to a greater place, sometimes in a generational way. And obviously, we represent a number of different kinds of schools. Some four-year traditional schools that go toward degree programs. My schools, Centura College, Tidewater Tech, Aviation Institute of Maintenance, are two-year schools that go toward a certification and directly to employment. But whether we're talking about a four-year degree or a two-year certificate program, all of those are answering that question: where is my life going? Where is my profession going? Where is my future headed? And that is what is accomplished through higher education.
You want to chime in as well?
Yeah, and I think what's important to people in your viewership and here in Virginia, so this is my 34th year as a college president in 4 different states, and what I can say about Virginia higher education is that students and residents in this state have more options than any other state, high quality options. And I hate to call it a system because a system implies that it's state institutions, but in Virginia, within a reasonable drive and at a reasonable cost, you can find a menu of options that any student would want in higher education. Whether it's the career colleges, the community colleges, the private institutions, the state institutions, or the major research institutions, all those options are available to students in an affordable menu within an easy drive.
Well, let's talk about the cost of college, and this is something you can weigh on as well. Young people are looking at dollar signs, and they're looking at providing for their family, and they're trying to weigh the idea of, do I step into the workforce immediately after I get my high school diploma? and try to build up that way? Because I hear about everybody talking about student loans. Are they going to be forgiven? Are they not going to be forgiven? How much debt am I going to be in if I go to school? What do you say to someone who says, I don't want to deal with debt, I'll figure it out on my own. College isn't for me.
I would say that's an economic choice that you ought to make. In higher education, one of the current debates is what is the income that you're going to generate in order to pay off your student loans? So all three of my kids, I'll give a shout out to them, they all majored in philosophy. And as they were making that decision, I was literally arguing with them. You can't get a job with that degree, but they wanted it in order to broaden. We were able to do that without financial aid, which is yay, but not many families have that ability. And so are we looking at liberal arts education, traditional liberal arts, which was focused on broadening the individual, exposing you to the great ideas of Western civilization, and now are we looking exclusively at what's the career path that this particular degree is going to do? I think for all of us, this is the challenge for the future. We're already hearing of certain universities eliminating traditional liberal arts courses, whether that's foreign language. I'm amazed English as a major seems to be on a rapid decline. Philosophy certainly is. And you look at these things, are we looking at it purely from economic means, and are you going to be able to pay off your loan? But that leads us to a bigger question. Is the current student loan formulas that we have, is that actually eroding our traditional liberal arts education, and is that ultimately good for the country or not? If you're just training people for professions, that's good, and there's plenty of room for that. But have we lost room for the more traditional education?
Yeah, I think that every higher education experience is based in two things: the actual process of going through a program, the academic program, and the what happens next and what have I prepared myself for. Now, I'm a guy who has 3 English degrees. I came here to Hampton Roads as an English professor at Old Dominion University, loved my time as an English professor, but I did find myself asking that very question. Of the 150 English majors that I love working with, how many jobs will they be competing with? How many employment opportunities? In other words, the present and the program is awesome and fun and engaging, but I wrestled with but what comes next for them? And that partly led to my transition to Centura College, Tidewater Tech Centura College, where we actually are preparing for students for many more jobs than they can actually fill because of the great shortage of technicians that our students prepare for. But in either way, I think that our American culture has come to a place with higher education where they're having a healthy questioning. What is the value that I'll be getting out, and what is the value that I'll experience with getting in? And I think each of us as leaders, whether it's of a liberal arts college or a skilled trades technical college, have to ask that question and be prepared for every one of our students asking that question. What am I going to enjoy while I'm there? What's that process, the quality of that process going to be? And what am I going to enjoy when I leave, the credential that I receive, the degree or certificate that I receive? What is that likely to produce for me and my family in coming back? And if we can answer those 2 questions, what is the quality of the process and what are the outcomes of the education, then we're doing our job as educators.
You know, they're asking those questions, and I don't know that that's necessarily questions that I was even asking. And so it's impressive that they're like, okay, what is going to be my return on investment? I was raised to college, you're going to college. It's just a matter of which one. Right. And then I knew what I wanted to study. I was blessed that I knew what I wanted to study. But what about the young person who values the idea of college? They're not sure what they want to study, but they know that they're going to get value out of the experience. Is that on you all as leaders to bring more of the outside world into the university to give examples of this is the path you can take if you earn a college degree?
I'm going to pass the baton, but I think I'm going to kind of repeat the question one more time because it's such a good one. When I was growing up, I was told, Joel, if you go to college, things will be okay.
Right.
And today the question has morphed into, if you go to college, consider what you expect to get out of it, and choose the program and the college based on your hopes and goals. That's a shift, and I think it's an important shift for us to be ready for.
So I think here again, students in the Hampton Roads have a benefit of having a menu of options. And my institution, I guess, is the traditional one per se, where the students come there as 18-year-olds. They want to join a fraternity, they want to play a sport, they want to create relationships in the residence halls. But you also have options available to them because of where we're located, and that's the collaboration among the institutions. We know each other. We have friendly relationships. Where else would you find people that are in the same industry who have friendships? Usually it's different from that. A student who comes to Virginia Wesleyan and is interested in getting a law degree with a particular specialty can come with us and due to a stack-on agreement with Regent, can go over to Regent to combine two institutions 4 miles apart and have a cost-efficient way to get 2 degrees that will prepare them not just for the first job, but for the next job and for the rest of their lives. The same thing with Old Dominion University, a collaborative relationship there, where students who are interested in going into engineering, instead of going outside the area, as a part of their studies with us, they can take classes in the engineering program at ODU, and then at graduation from us have prerequisites taken care of and be ready to continue in ODU's engineering program or Virginia Tech's. I think the 14 institutions that are in our immediate market, the presidents get along with each other, they work together. The winner in that is the students. You don't get that in a rural part of the state. In Hampton Roads, students have the win because there are affordable options that are available to them. There are stack-on options from multiple institutions, and without them having to go into tremendous debt on relocation and housing and the like, they can do it as a commuter or they can do it as a residential student, and they can stack on all our available options.
And ultimately, that makes it far more affordable. So the regional cooperation among all the schools is of ultimate benefit to everyone here.
Do you think that message is getting out to young people who are making decisions about higher education?
Well, why don't you answer that question? When you were 18, thinking of college, were you thinking any of these thoughts?
I was raised that I was going to college and to excel in everything that I did. That was the message. It was just a matter, and in my home, it was a matter of which HBCU were you going to choose? Where were you going to study journalism? Encouraged to go anywhere I wanted, but for my family, that's what was important. For the young people now, I think the exposure of social media and seeing so many different pathways and maybe not understanding the layers behind that can give maybe not always the most direct reflection of what someone's journey is. So I think that's a part of it. But what conversations are you or even your colleagues having with students to say, hey, this can be a pathway for you? Do you think the message is getting across?
Well, I hope we're creating an environment where the message is there and the opportunities are there. Now the issue is communication. Certainly within the student body, you have plenty of opportunity to communicate that. From the applicant pool, I think it goes down. And does the average high school student in this area know all of these options available? Now you're into the cost of communication of that message and how do you make that? I think it's incumbent upon us to create the environment for opportunity, for success. And when a student comes in, make sure that they know all of the options available to them.
I'll say something about that communicating the vision of where we're headed when we choose a higher education pathway. There are 2 skilled trades programs that are probably at the most in need nationally and also locally, and those are in healthcare and in skilled trades such as aviation and welding, the kinds of maritime jobs that are in Hampton Roads. There's a version of that elsewhere. And so we teach a welding program, a ship fitting program, aviation maintenance program. And when I'm asked, that question, how do students learn about your program? I say, well, we work hard in advertising and communicating and really demonstrating what we do. But to me, the best piece of communication is when the employers say, we need more nurses, we need more medical assistants, we need more entrepreneurs or logistics folks working at a shipyard or a port. For us, the largest industry we serve is aviation maintenance, and our airlines come to us and say, you know, we're willing to help pay the tuition for some students. We're willing to offer jobs before they even graduate to your students so that we have enough technicians fixing our planes so that we're able to get folks there safely and on time. And so if I had a magic wand to wave, it would be that we all could be aware of the jobs that are in most demand and how, because the more young people understand, nursing, logistics, aviation maintenance, welding, these are not just areas where I can feed my family, but I can build an entire career based on that. That message just can't be trumpeted loud enough.
I think that's a great point, Joel, and I think to that also, we're heavily into healthcare at Bryan and Stratton College as far as our programmatic makeup is concerned. We have 4 nursing programs, and what we're finding, especially comparative to when I was back in school and thinking about a major and not quite sure what I wanted to land on, we're seeing a much more educated student and even parent coming in, already having thoughts and ideas of what career track they would like to be in. And with that in mind, they know the right questions to ask in many cases. What are the NCLEX scores of the nursing programs? Who are your employer partners? What are the chances that my son or daughter are going to get on with employment or with this particular healthcare agency upon graduation? So we're seeing a lot of that lately, at least we are at Bryan and Stratton.
I never thought I would ask education leaders this, but how many of you have your schools on TikTok?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Isn't that something that is such a powerful driver of conversation, of information? Why do you think that's important?
It's communicating with the generation that we want to get the message out to. But you know, all 4 of us also have early enrollment programs to cultivate the next generation of college students also. And those early enrollment programs are different depending on the institution. But you know, Virginia Wesleyan, for existence, we like to refer to it as cradle-to-grave education. We have 2 private academies on campus that are grades 1 through 12, but we also have a lifelong learning institute that enrolled a learner that was 96 years old last year. That's spreading the word about the value of education. And the early enrollment programs that we all have, you know, it's becoming popular at the national level to talk about dual enrollment. You know, our institution does an early enrollment partnership with private institutions in the area that enables students who are interested in going to a school like us to actually get college credit while they're in high school. Whether that ends up with them coming to us or going away so that they're away from home for the first time and then coming back to our institution on the flip, it's turning people on to education and turning them on to earlier, and so that they understand the value of it.
Let's talk about that movement of wanting to keep the folks here who are here and attract people who are not here and get them to stay here. I've been a member of the Hampton Roads community for 14 years. From New Orleans, studied, went to college at FAMU in Florida. My first reporting job was in Mississippi. I got a call from WTKR, and I've been here ever since. This place has become my home. I moved my mama here from New Orleans. I'm a part of Virginia now. That's the message you want to communicate to other young people, and you want it to start in college.
Yeah, so we are categorized as a national liberal arts college, which is different than the other 3 institutions. So a lot of our recruiting, we go from the North Carolina line all the way up to Boston. In our recruitment territory. And when you're recruiting in Boston in the middle of the winter, who wouldn't want to come to the beach?
To the beach, yeah.
And so, you know, we keep hearing, Joel and I are involved in a regional economic development organization, and we keep hearing, how do we keep talent here? We're finding when talent comes from Boston and New York and Philadelphia and Washington, they like it here and they want to stay here. And so we're not finding some of those brain drain issues where the students are hopping to go somewhere else after graduation. We're finding that those kids from Boston, just the other day I was talking to Eric Nyman, who's a 1994 grad, who going out of high school in 1990, guidance counselor had him lined up and he was going to Brown University. And then all of a sudden a recruiter walked in and had brochures about this college in Virginia Beach. And he said it was windy and snowy on Cape Cod, and I said, I'm going there. And he said, the guidance counselor doesn't talk to him to this day because he skipped. But he went on, Eric Nyman's his name, he went on to be the CEO of Hasbro and is now the CEO of Vista Outdoors. And he said, that small college experience, and I got to tell you, I loved the beach. And you got to think that the types of institutions and the programs that we offer are attractive to students outside of the area. The key here is finding the job, having the jobs available to them after graduation.
That's right. I want to say that for me and my organizations, yes, our goal is for our graduates to stay here in Hampton Roads and fill the industry needs that are here. Industry needs are around the entire country, but we have those needs here. To me, my biggest goal as an organization, as an institution of higher education, is to attract industry to come to this area to create even more of those jobs. Now, if anybody's ever been to Aviation Institute of Maintenance, 109,000 square feet, very large school in aviation maintenance school on Little Creek Boulevard, and it sort of outpunches its weight in Hampton Roads. It's actually the largest, one of the two largest aviation maintenance schools in the country. And one of the reasons we've invested so heavily is because we want airlines. Breeze Airlines has put more attention. Over the last 3 years, our relationship with Allegiant Airlines and Spirit, United and Delta and American all have attracted more attention here, and we're seeing more aviation maintenance business come to town because of the quality of our school and institution, which creates more opportunity for my students to be able to stay here and do aviation maintenance right in town. So what I'm saying is, when our institutions are performing at their very best and our students are at their most impactful, we can actually influence industry to move here and become a part of our community because of the quality of our graduates. One more example of that is offshore wind. We know that over the next 2 years, we'll see the 180 offshore wind turbines start producing energy here. At Centura College, we have the only certificate level offshore wind turbine technician program. And we built that right as the industry was coming together because we wanted to be able to, one, produce the solution for tomorrow's workforce, but also say to industry, bring another turbine manufacturing plant here, bring more energy, bring more opportunity to this area because the quality of the graduates we have ready for you is very powerful. So I think higher education works best as an instigator for more business and as a solution for more students and where they go afterwards.
You're trying to get ahead.
That's right.
Ahead of the curve. Let's talk about this. This is something, I know, Jeff, you wanted to talk about with pre-K programs. The pipeline to higher education beginning with quality pre-K programs like Head Start. So how are you connected to preparing your future students who are just tiny little things right now?
Yeah, sure, Jessica. Well, we all know the pre-K and pre-K programs are so important, and with HRCAP also being the largest provider of Head Start in all of Virginia, and the great work that they do, we've been admirers of HRCAP for quite a while. And with that in mind, about 1.5 years ago, we were able to get together and take a look at synergies and opportunities because we have some terrific early childhood education programs at Bryan and Stratton College and are proud of the work that we do to train the next generation of early childhood educators. So with that in mind, we sat down with the president of HRCAP, Edith G. White, and Shai Key Franklin, their director of Head Start, and looked at some opportunities. And we found that along with the great work that they do, they were having some opportunities whereby the instructors that were in the classrooms teaching the cohorts of students and doing the great work that they do, they needed to be certified to get a certification, particularly the Child Development Associate certification. And as life happens, it gets in the way and they're teaching. And as far as the cadence of getting it done in time to satisfy regulators with Head Start was getting a little bit interesting. So we landed on a solution whereby we created a short course program for them, a CDA boot camp, if you will, where we lay out the fundamentals of early childhood education, give the educators and aspiring educators for Head Start and HRCAP a grounding, along with a boot camp and a prep course for the CDA exam. And we were fortunate enough to kick our first cohort off in December of this past year, and the students are doing great. It's a 17-week program. They're coming up on graduation and taking the CDA exam, and then we'll roll out the next cohort of 17 with HRCAP and others. And we're just so proud of the work that HRCAP does, and we're honored to be able to help them. So that's our way to help assist.
You know, you ask how that happens. You're talking to 4 leaders of private institutions, and a major advantage that we have in our business models is we're private. We can pivot faster. We don't have to worry as much about state regulatory gobbledygook. We have an ability to create our path and be responsive to our publics a whole lot faster because we're private institutions and can pivot fast. And I think you know, we are good at hearing what the needs are in a community, identifying those needs, and each of us in our different ways are responding to the needs of the communities that we live in and creating a quality of life for those communities that is based on our mission and purpose.
What would you say is your institution's, for each of you, your biggest contribution to our region?
So, you know, Virginia Wesleyan, we were what was categorized as a comprehensive residential liberal arts college. And 10 years ago, as higher education was changing, they brought me in and they said, we're a well-kept secret, we don't want to be. You know, we want to think outside the box, throw the box away, and that's what we've done over the last 10 years. So we're economic contributors, the people that we hire, but we also do things like partnerships with the local economic development organizations to meet talent development and workforce development needs. We stack on with other institutions to meet needs in the sciences. We provide a world-class undergraduate experience in the arts and sciences that will feed the graduate institutions in this area and produce you know, people with PhDs in highly specialized areas that can come back to the heavy science and technology that this region is known for. So we are no longer a well-kept secret, and we have thought outside the box. And I think our reputation will grow in the next 10 years. You know, we've gone from a school of 1,200 traditional students 9 years ago to 1,600 traditional students now, and another 3,500 students a year in non-traditional programs. I see that popularity continuing to grow. And part of it is the community that we're located in. Part of it is that we're a private institution that's able to pivot fast.
Yeah, it's a question that has a multifaceted answer, of course, but I would think at the outset, one of the things I'm most proud of is the number of students that we've educated. I think about the hundreds of nurses, medical assistants, and other healthcare workers that we've put out into the community over the past 4 or 5 years, especially during the pandemic. And we've done that locally also. The overwhelming majority of our healthcare workers and nurses are staying right here in the community and working for our terrific employer partners. I also think about the fact that at Bryan and Stratton College, just about 70% of the students who were attending Bryan and Stratton College had attended another university prior to attending Bryan and Stratton. So we're proud of the fact of offering the career-focused education, which gives them another bite at the apple, if you will, as far as their academic pursuits and their career pursuits are concerned.
I would say I want to name 2 things that I think are our central contributions. So Centura College has 3 campuses, and Tidewater Tech has 1 campus in Norfolk. Aviation Institute of Maintenance, one campus here in Norfolk. And we focus on the community employment needs. And so we have 25 programs across the campuses based on in Newport News, we have a welding program, an HVAC program, a medical assisting program because of those industries being most heavily concentrated there. Healthcare and wellness programs in Chesapeake serving that community for those needs, and skilled trades programs like carpentry, electrician, wind turbine technician, solar technician in Norfolk. And so really our programming in our communities follows the jobs that are available, and that's always going to be our greatest contribution. Skilled, certified tradespeople coming out of school, ready to work. The other contribution I want to mention, though, is youth programming, getting people at a very young age interested in the trades that are available to them. Someone mentioned earlier the GLOW program, Girls in Leadership for Offshore Wind, and the GLOW group brings dozens of young girls who say, what is it like to work in the wind turbine industry? And we put them on our climbing tower to show, yep, there are heights and there's danger, but there's also amazing generation of energy.
That's an exposure.
The exposure at a young age. We found that middle school is the right age to get young people involved in exploring careers. And so at Aviation Institute of Maintenance on April 27th, we're working with Jackie Glass, who really is out there for young people looking at aviation, and she's running a program alongside us, working together to get people at a young age. And then, as Dr. Miller said, that leads right into a dual enrollment or dual credit program while students are in high school. So if we went to Aviation Institute of Maintenance right now, we'd see a dozen or so high school students working on their FAA certification as an aircraft mechanic while they're in high school. Now, when they graduate high school, they'll have credits that would transfer to us if they want to continue that program, or they'll have some of the best experience to put toward an engineering program at one of the four-year universities and say, oh yeah, I've also been working on my FAA certification as an aircraft technician, which is something that very few graduating high school students can say. So that second contribution is outreach to youth, getting them interested and invigorated in a skilled trade, whether they follow that after high school or not. That awareness is so important.
And what is Regent's big contribution to our community?
We started as a graduate school and have grown an undergraduate, but in our graduate programs, our top four are law, counseling, psychology, divinity. So you look at the churches around here and a lot of Regent grads. And the School of Education, I'll just talk about two of the programs. The law school has spearheaded through their global justice a victims of sex trafficking and was able to get through the Virginia legislature a bill that a victim of sex trafficking could have their record expunged. Because so often they're caught up in the system, they're charged with prostitution, that will last their lifetime. And how do we get that record clean? And we just this past year got the first one through the system, and her record's now clean, and what a wonderful contribution to really help people.
We've done some extensive reporting on that, our Margaret Kavanaugh, my fellow investigative reporter, so that has been a huge relief to victims of sex trafficking to be honored for what they went through and not be punished for what they went through.
Not be stigmatized
Yes,
forever.
absolutely, absolutely.
How would that affect them on employment? But I think our biggest contribution locally is through the School of Education, which a lot of people don't know is our biggest school. 2,500 graduates, of those 600 are now serving in the public schools right here. So it's what a positive force, and when you look at graduation rates, how can we change that? Head Start's a great way. You've got to get into childhood pre-K nutrition, you've got to get into pre-K education, but then you've got to be looking at summer schools so that children don't fall back in those summer months. And how do we change the graduation rates here in our local high schools? How do we integrate all of that and integrate these systems and school systems? I think one of the biggest challenges we have in influencing the region is how do we get more regional cooperation? We have economic development authorities per city. Could that join together and create regional? Could we have a regional approach to transportation, to highway construction, to airports? all of these things are necessary to grow the region. So going forward I think all of us, we're focused on that.
Before I let you gentlemen go, I do want to ask you this, because I think young people, and rightfully so, they're looking at us in various generations and saying, you're doing rewarding work, but you seem burned out. I'm trying to have work-life balance. I don't want to be stressed all the time. I don't want to wait until retirement before I can go sail on a boat and drink a cocktail and enjoy the breeze in my hair. They want to be able to do those types of things earlier and integrate it into their life. And I think sometimes they may look on social media and see different pathways that seem to provide those things sooner, although it may not be fulfilling a need in our community. How are you communicating to young people about the need to serve a purpose and a passion and have that balance in life at the same time?
I'll go first, and I hope to goodness I don't sound old and crusty when I answer this question. I think that the somewhat contemporary demand for a strong work-life balance is so healthy, so important. I think that our contemporary, today's look at mental health and in personal wellness is so essential, and I hope that is the new America. The one thing that I would caution anyone, no matter what age or no matter where they are in their career, to understand, though, is that hard work breeds the ability to enjoy that work-life balance. So when we hear, I want work-life balance, if that means I don't want to work very hard, I just want to enjoy life, there's probably something not very realistic about that. But if it means for the 40 hours of a week that I work, I want to hoof it and be the hardest working person around me. And for the other time of my life, I want to be so present with my family that they enjoy every moment of me. And while I'm alone, I have a spiritual and fitness about my person that I'm fully committed to. If we're fully committed to work, family, home, and self-care, then that's called work-life balance. So I just want to caution anybody who thinks that, well, I shouldn't have to work so hard. That's where it's not that realistic.
You know, I'll take a different approach on that one. The pandemic changed the way current youth look at the world. And in March of 2020, when the governor issued the stay-at-home order, I remember our students going, yes, I'll be able to go home and catch my class on Zoom while I'm in bed, or I can live a different lifestyle. This online is going to be great. That was in March of 2020. 1 month later, they were begging us to come back for in-person instruction because while online has become a more popular means since the pandemic, it's never going to put a place like us out of business, because students come to a school like Virginia Wesleyan for that education, not just for their first job, but for the job after that and for the rest of their lives. And they want to come to a campus like ours to have interactions with faculty members, not just in the classrooms, but in the grill or at an athletic event or through sponsorship of a fraternity or sorority. You can't do those things online. And while Gordon and I in particular have large online programs, it's not going to drive the residential component out, because students, the 18-year-olds, are going to come to a college campus looking to prepare themselves for lives. And those productive lives, that's a part of our educational experience here.
It's community, it's connectivity. Mm-hmm. Before I let you all go, if you could give me one word to describe the state of higher education in Virginia, what would that be?
State of higher education in Virginia. Exciting.
Exciting.
Dynamic.
Collaborative.
For me, it's challenging.
I think that I think that's something the brotherhood here would echo. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an incredible conversation about ways we can communicate with our young people and the offerings all of your education institutions have. Thank you so much. And I just want to share this note. You know, several of our colleges and university leaders are going to be honored on June 6th for the HRCAP Community Builders Awards. You can purchase your tickets for the event featuring actress and educator Felicia Rashad at hrcapinc.org. On behalf of all of us here at News 3, I am Jessica Larche. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good evening.